Komorebi means sunlight that filters through tree leaves, which is a very unique. The Japanese have beautiful words for different circumstances and stuff that you would never even dream of thinking. And my first concert was when I was 7 years old, and I was playing a Western classical music piece, and I've sort of just been doing it since then. I really love Björk, Nine Inch Nails, Massive Attack, and Radiohead. These are my four.
They're classic.
I do think it's sort of our responsibility as artists to introduce people to a better way of thinking. Because like we are experiencing life in the same plane as everyone else, but we are expressing it. I'm an author of a comic now, my own comic, which was another amazing thing that we got to do outside of the music with this album. So when you're watching a Lady Gaga show live, it's almost like you're not on Earth. My goal actually is to connect with more people. Mm-hmm. And I think pop music does allow a little bit of accessibility versus like experimental music. I mean, look at the growth in the last 20 years in indie music. We didn't have Lollapalooza 20 years ago. And I think more and more people are paying attention and listening, and our audiences are growing.
Hi, this is Kiran Mandral. I'm back with another episode of Chasing Creativity, and today I have with me Tarana Marwa, who also goes by the moniker Komorebi. And she's an electronic alternative artist. She's down here to shoot for Coke Studio, and I'm lucky enough to have her in the studio here with me today to talk about her work, her inspirations, and her creative process. Welcome to the show, Tarana.
Thank you so much for having me and for that lovely introduction, and I feel really happy to be here today.
I'm so fascinated by the work you do. I've been sort of stalking you for the past couple of days on Insta and seeing all your stuff. How did this girl from Delhi get into this space? It's such an unusual space to be in. And at what point in your childhood or in your teenage years did you decide this is where I'm going to be, this is my career, and this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life?
Well, with me, it was a bit of a weird thing where, you know how your parents sort of influence your life decisions. And in India, it's very famous that, you know, your parents say become an engineer or a doctor. So in my life, my parents really wanted me to realize the dream of being an artist. So I actually got into this very early in my life.
Interesting.
And my first concert was when I was 7 years old, and I was playing a Western classical music piece, and I've sort of just been doing it since then. So it's been a really long time.
That's a long time, and it's very interesting and inspiring to hear that your parents put you towards this.
Yeah.
But you know, music, you think classical Indian, you think Bollywood singing, you think very, the tried and tested that everyone's gone, but electronica and the performance space that you're in, that's completely new and unique.
Yes.
What was your first introduction to this?
So I bought a laptop in college with my own money. It was like the first couple of times that, I'd done a gig and I decided to save my money and purchase a laptop. Mm-hmm. And laptops have DAWs, which are digital audio workshops. You have like Logic Pro, Ableton, and things like that. And I used Logic Pro to make I started making songs on my own at home in my bedroom. And I was like 18 at the time. And one of my friends actually suggested that I should release the music that I had put out in my laptop. And I was like very hesitant towards it. I said, no, this is not something I'm interested in. I'd rather do I wanted to do film scoring, not get into indie music. And then I went ahead with the idea because it was a good idea, and it just blew up. Sort of like it just became mercurially just rose and became a whole thing, and it was received very well. So then I just kept going from there. And I also listened to a lot of electronic music. So I think that's sort of where my journey as an electronic artist started.
So who are your inspirations in this space?
I really love Björk, Nine Inch Nails, Massive Attack, and Radiohead. These are my four.
They're classic.
Yeah. These are all like
classics, 90s
electronica acts. Yeah.
So back in the 90s, electronica wasn't really popular, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that you loved them. It is something that inspired you. What was your first introduction to it? I mean, in the sense that I can create this music, I can do this, I can make the same kind of music.
I think every person, whether they're an artist or really doing any kind of job, they go through phases with artists that really inspire them. And I had a really long phase with Björk and Lady Gaga. And I used to love the fact that, they would create a separate avatar for their performances. And I think that escapist and sort of fantastical element in what they were doing really inspired me, because I always wanted to get away from, I found real life very boring and
I don't blame
bland.
you.
Yeah, and I never felt in tune with where I was and what I was doing, and I wanted to do something slightly out of the box and slightly larger than life. So that phase I had was with Bjork and Lady Gaga, where I was like, okay, I love this. No one is really doing it in our country, and I wanted to be someone who could maybe introduce audiences to something like that, here.
So tell us about your name, Komorebi. It has a beautiful meaning in Japanese. I'll leave it to you to tell us what it is and why. What made you choose this name?
Komorebi means sunlight that filters through tree leaves, which is a very unique. The Japanese have beautiful words for different circumstances and stuff that you would never even dream of thinking. And I found that entire phrase really beautiful. This was the same friend that told me to release my music, was the same person who found the word for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to go with it. And I was always in love with Japanese culture, with anime, with their scoring for films. And I was always inspired by that. So I wanted it all to sort of like come together and become a part of one big thing. So that was how it happened.
And you mentioned anime right now. Anime is like huge. I mean, even in your performances, in your alternate personas, you tend to draw on that.
Yeah.
So how do you build these personas? Do you sort of sit and plan them out? Do you get the costumes? I mean, how does it work? I'm very strange to this, so just take me as a dummy's guide through creating this.
It's definitely something that requires planning and vision, but I would say that the artists that I look up to do it so effortlessly and have really paved a path in that sort of way. So that's where I wanted to build on my strengths and influences, because they always tell you to write what you know, and this is something that I was good at. Like, I was a gamer, I was into comics, I was into watching animated films. So for me, this was very it was close to home, and it was something that I enjoyed. So I wanted to keep doing what I enjoyed and what I was good at, and bring that into parts of my personality into my work. So that's sort of where I was like, okay, let's bring these two worlds together. Tarana as a performer, Tarana as a stylist, Tarana as a musician. Let's put it all into one big thing and make it, an indie act.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And you were always very sure that you're going to stay an indie act. And that's the space you wanted to be, or you did explore other options earlier?
I knew I wanted to do music, and I wanted to do all things music, and I wanted to be a film scorer, and the indie stuff just happened by chance. It happened by accident, actually. And then it did really well. And I started enjoying the other. It's like you have different parts of your brain are being employed in different parts of your music. So as a film scorer, as somebody who does ad film work, as a voiceover artist, as an indie artist, it's good to sort of have different parts of your brain that you can access and really exercise that part of your brain and bring the creativity onto paper and onto screen. So it's like I want to have different options for myself.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Tell us about playing at Lola.
Oh my God, Lola was the best gig of my life. It was it was really well organized. It was the most exciting gig because the acts I was opening for on day 2 are just magnificent. There was Anushka Shankar, Sting, Keen, and grown up listening to these artists, then finally played the same stage as them. So it was like a dream come true, a dream realized. And the amount of planning that went into our set, whether it was the costumes, the set design, the visuals. I had a string quartet playing with us live and training them, and then getting the band together and playing. It was like the best possible version of what I wanted to do happened that day. It was a really, really exciting day for me. Yeah.
When you play live, a lot of what you do feeds back from the audience, right?
Yeah.
Do you think the audiences here are ready to accept things that they are not familiar with? Are they ready to, to take experimentation, something that's they've not seen before? Or do you think they're resistant to something that they're unfamiliar with?
I think the answer to that is really complex, because yes, now is the best time to possibly do something like this, because 10 years ago or 20 years ago, I don't think there was a landscape or any platform available for an artist to do anything out of the ordinary. Though you will find those pioneering artists who went against that and did their own thing regardless. And they're very brave, all the artists who did that. And they sort of paved a path for us to do that. But at the same time, yes, people are resistant to what's not familiar. But I've never been one to be afraid of what people think. And I also kind of believe like this is now going to a slightly more spiritual space and outside of the material space. I do think it's sort of our responsibility as artists to introduce people to a better way of thinking. Because like we are experiencing life in the same plane as everyone else, but we are expressing it. So it's sort of like we have a responsibility to talk about things, to change the way things are doing, the way things are now, and to sort of introduce people to what we think could be a futuristic or a better way of looking at music or life. And yeah, it's a huge burden to carry, and it's scary. But I think it's necessary. That's the mindset an artist should have, ideally, because it's not all about like likes and views and fame and things like that. You know, that should always be an accessory or something that adds on to what we're actually trying to do.
You just released a new album.
Yes.
And it's a huge mammoth project. I
Yes.
believe you've collaborated with over 100 people and 100 other artists, and it took you a while to put it together. 6 years?
6 years.
6 years. Tell us a bit about the project.
So my album is called The Fall, and it's entirely based off of a story that I wanted to write about a space traveler who's exploring the cosmos, and then she crash lands on Earth. And then she explores Earth with her. She has a pet owl. This is a very strange world that has been created. No sense is made here. Why is there an alien traveler with an owl? Like I don't. I'm taking
you
a
don't
lot
have to explain the
creative.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fantasy.
Exactly.
Please,
So
sir.
and then I wanted to match. The idea was to match each chapter to a single on the record. So there are 7 chapters in the story, and then there are 7 singles on the album. And it was amazing because I was acting as my character, whose name is Kiane. And so there were costumes, music videos. We got to work with Unreal Engine for one of the music videos, and we were one of the first indie artists to do a virtual production set. So to put that together, it was insane because we had like 200 people on set creating a physical environment for us, and then a virtual production in the background, like matching lights and matching creating the environment that we wanted for each shot. So stuff that has done, you know, like projects that have done that before are like Mandalorian. Like it's a
Huge.
large
Yes.
scale, you know. So for me to be able to have that opportunity as an indie artist was insane. And it happened by chance. You know, the director had come for one of my shows and he said, let's do this. I'm tired of doing ad film work. I don't want to make another 5-star ad. I want to express my creativity, and it was a nice way to work with them and Media Monks. And I'm an author of a comic now, my own comic, which was another amazing thing that we got to do outside of the music with this album. And yeah, it was received really well, and it's a heartfelt project. It's all from my heart. It's about my life, and I'm very happy that it's been realized as a dream of mine.
How did you create this project? What was your process like? It took you 6 years. Obviously, it's large scale. To put it together took you all this time.
Yeah,
But to create the initial draft from where you built it on.
right.
So, what were your inspirations for that? And how did you go about writing and building up this music, etc.?
So, I mean, the inspirations musically, I think what I really enjoyed about the artists that I was inspired by was that they had a really cool visual element to their releases. If you guys have heard of the Gorillaz, I love that they've created characters like Murdoch and Noodle, and you know how the characters are the ones singing the songs. And it also comes from a space of me not liking to be in my own video. Like I don't like to be on camera in particular. Like it's not something I enjoy per se, but whatever, you grow out of that sort of thing. And I started basically trying to build characters. We created a 3D version of Kiane who was talking about the releases, and the entire social media campaign was done through her. And otherwise it's the same people that I was discussing earlier, like Bjork and Lady Gaga and Grimes, because all of these women had such a strong element of fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that Lady Gaga has all these costumes and she has a different get-up for every show, and she's a fabulous performer. So when you're watching a Lady Gaga show live, it's almost like you're not on Earth. And that was the whole theme, like the general theme of the record, and why, I decided to do something slightly out of the box,
Lovely. A lot of performers, they have an alter ego that they call upon when they perform.
Mhm.
Somebody who's completely different from whom they are.
Yeah.
Do you have something like that?
Absolutely. I mean, who I am on stage, I often find, even earlier today, when I was meeting people here at the podcast back rooms, I'll often find that people say that, they can't recognize me from one show to the next, and that they can't recognize me from one interview to the next. And that's very much by design, because I like to create characters and sort of express myself through those characters. So it's kind of interesting and mysterious that you'll never really know the real me, and you'll never really see the real me, and that's very much on purpose, because, like I said, I'm not the same person at home in my pajamas, eating junk food, as I am on stage performing in front of like thousands of people. So I have to separate the two characters for sure. Yeah, there's no way they can really merge. Maybe someday, I don't know.
You came down to Bombay for a Coke Studio shoot.
Yeah.
Tell us about it. What will we be seeing Tarana as?
In Coke Studio, it's a very interesting project that we got to work on. And I am working with a Marathi group of people.
Okay.
So I'm producing a Marathi song for Coke Studio. And for me, that's been a really big challenge, because obviously the music influences I have nothing to do with India. But because I've been writing in Hindi as of late, in the last couple of years, for me, this was a welcome challenge. It's like a opportunity to learn about the environment you're based in. And there is sometimes a disconnect between indie artists and where they're living, especially in this country, because you'll find people living in Mumbai or Delhi, but they're singing about experiences that may be happening to an alien, in my case, or someone living in London or the States. So like projects like this actually allow me to integrate myself back into where I live.
Mhm.
And I think just as an identity crisis that one faces living in India, being a younger person and trying to fit in, I think that this is something that gives me the opportunity to reconnect with who I am as an Indian. And that's very important as you're getting older and trying to understand what your place is in this world as well. So it's a cool way to reconnect with that. And the singers are fabulous. I obviously can't give their names here,
Obviously.
but you're gonna love the song, because it's a really well written song, and I'm very proud of the collaborators I've worked with.
And Marathi is not a language that's you're familiar with.
No, which is why I'm producing the music and not singing it. It might have been a disaster otherwise, but yeah.
Did you have to understand all the lyrics in translation?
Oh yeah. And I had to be taught what they were singing about, but I think the theme of the song is very universal, so that way it wasn't a problem.
If you had to bottle hole your kind of music into a specific genre, what would you call it?
Well, I would have said electronic, but right now the space I'm venturing into is pop. I think I'm taking a creative shift that way, because my goal actually is to connect with more people.
Mhm.
And I think pop music does allow a little bit of accessibility versus like experimental music. So I think the pop elements will allow me to connect with more people. And that's sort of a goal that I've had as of late. Like, I really want more people to be able to come and listen and understand what it is we're trying to do. But I'll always be honest to whatever creative calls I want to make. So pop doesn't necessarily mean commercial. It just means popular.
Mhm. Internationally, you have these wonderful stages and the visual effects of the performances. I don't know. I've just recently been seeing Anima.
Yeah.
And that's like a next level altogether. Do you think we will see something like that here in India?
Absolutely, you will. I mean, look at the growth in the last 20 years in indie music. We didn't have Lollapalooza 20 years ago. And I think more and more people are paying attention and listening. And our audiences are growing. I mean, it happens at a slower pace than we'd hoped for, but it's happening. And I think that impatience and arrogance also comes from youth, like we're all in our 20s. We want immediate results. And the thing is that things happen slowly, but they do happen. And it's like going to the gym. You have to be consistent, and then you see results a little later. You can't wake up and be muscular. So it's the same logic. India's taking a little bit of time, but it's happening, and it's really cool. Like there's a really cool new wave of music that is erupting right now in India. So it's a very exciting time to be an indie artist.
Lovely. In terms of music, what would you think would be your ultimate ambition?
Oh, that is a very deep question for 5 p.m.
With one coffee, two coffees.
with 3 coffees now. My ultimate goal with music is to reach as many people as possible with the most authentic expression of myself, and to have them connect with that, because I've seen that when I sing about very, very serious topics about my life, whether it's my family or my pain or my happiness even, there are people that reach out to me and tell me that it gets them through the similar situation in their life. And I have always felt that that is far more rewarding than, money or anything material like clothes, brand associations. That's all really nice. But connecting with your fans is another kind of joy. It sort of refuels the need to keep doing something as difficult and challenging as being an artist. So for me, that's my goal.
Lovely. What about the indie artists from India? Any of them that you look up to or admire?
There are so many I look up to, actually. I don't know where to begin, but I really love Tajdar Junaid. I love Raja Kumari, though she's not living here, but I think what she's doing is really cool. And how she represents our country is really cool. And people in my space, I really like Mali. I really like Kamakshi Khanna. I really like the F-16s.
Mm-hmm. For a young person trying to get into this space, I mean, if somebody's interested in electronica and interested in creating music, what would you tell them? What are the things they need to keep in mind, and how do they build themselves towards a career in music?
I would say that, like, number one is the support that you're looking for. There's always a period of doubt, because artists are there's a narcissistic streak in every artist, because we think we're the best and then we think we're the worst.
Yeah.
And
it happens 10 times a day.
Oscillate a lot. And that's very tiring, actually. And a lot of times you end up looking for validation, for reassurance. And I think the biggest thing to remember here is that even if you don't have, if you don't receive that from the outside world, I'm not saying you won't, but if you don't, believe in yourself. Because I think believing in yourself and having faith in what you're doing and remembering why you're doing it gives you a lot of strength, inner strength and power. And I think that inner strength is something that you have to cultivate if you're an artist, because the outside world is very difficult and harsh to navigate. And if you don't have faith in what you're doing, and you don't know why you're doing it, you don't care about it enough, and you don't develop thick skin, then this world is going to eat you alive. And you can't allow that to happen, because your art is bigger than you are. So you sort of have to step outside of your ego and remember that your art is like way bigger than you are as a whole. As an entity, your art is the biggest thing. So cultivate inner strength is what I would say to the younger lot. It's something I wish I could tell myself, 10 years ago, that be stronger. So yeah.
Be stronger. That's very important. And I love the fact that you said your art is bigger than yourself, because very often I think as creative people, we tend to enmesh ourselves with art, which is also important.
Yeah.
But we enmesh ourselves to a degree that it becomes very personal, the acceptance and the rejection.
Yes.
As somebody who creates on your own and, makes your own music, does your own lyrics, does your own sets, whatever, when you have to collaborate, how easy or difficult is it for you as an artist?
Well, it depends on the collaborator.
That's a very honest answer.
I myself find it quite easy, because I do think that I get a little myopic when I'm working on my own. It's like how when I don't meet my friends for a long time and I'm not social, I tend to like spiral and I get into my head a lot. And then when you meet a friend, you get an outside perspective. So it's the same thing with music. Like, you meet another artist and they bring in their own world, and that is really good for the music. It's healthy for the music. So I quite love collaborating with other artists, and I do it a lot with my own work as well.
You've done it for your album as well.
Oh yeah, I have Easy Wanderlings, Dhruv Vishwanath. it's actually a really long list, but lots of people that came on board, and they were very eager to be a part of it, and that made me feel really nice. And it's always worthwhile to just pick up a phone and dial the person you're inspired by and just be like, hey, would you like to work on a song? And 9 out of 10 times you'll find that if you ask, you'll actually get what you were looking for with that.
Lovely. So the scene with the indie music artists is you are a collaborative, happy space, and there are no voodoo dolls being created and pins being stuck into each other.
I mean, I wouldn't say that the scene is devoid of competition. There is competition, but if you go with good intentions, then the other person sometimes also melts and realizes that the intention is good. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but I have cultivated a creative space with the collaborators where I've tried my best to shield all of us from that energy. It's important to do that because you can get competitive. I feel competitive a lot sometimes, so it's a human tendency. So it's best to try and be a little ahead of that, like try and control that.
What have been your most favorite places to play at?
I love Zero Festival in Arunachal Pradesh. It's a gorgeous area. It's cut off from everything civilized. It's just in the middle of a valley, and it's almost like you're playing in nature. And I had to get to Zero by using 3 modes of transport. So it was like a flight, a train, and by car, and it takes an entire day to get there. So it felt like, I think maybe because the effort put in to just reach the venue was so high, it felt like a reward when we got there. But it's a really, Arunachal Pradesh and Northeast in general, like if you go there, you'll see how beautiful India can be as a country. So it was really fun to play there.
Lovely. What's coming from you next?
Well, I'm doing scores for OTT, Netflix and Amazon. So there's a really fun show coming out soon called Dabba Cartel.
Okay.
And I'll be doing music for that. And with my own stuff, with Komorebi, I think what I'm going for with this next record is going to surprise everyone. Because I'm sort of reinventing a lot of what I've been doing. I'm sort of really just flipping it over its head. And it'll be really interesting to watch me doing a completely different genre in music. So that's my goal.
I love the fact that you're experimenting and you're not content to sit on something that you're popular for already.
No, because then you don't grow and you don't challenge yourself, and it just does. It tends to get a little boring. It tends to get boring for me. So.
Lovely. Wish you all the best, Tarana,
Thank
for
you
whatever
so
you
much.
do, and looking forward to seeing your stuff, the Coke studio that you're working on, and the shows that are coming up. All the very best.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for letting me be here and have these amazing discussions with you.
All the best.